This is better. Hey, nice to meet you. We will dive immediately to the topic so we can manage within the time. So we are here to talk about a bit of the KNL and their story in the defense sector. And as mentioned, Toni is here. He's the founder CEO of KNL, and we were from Butterfly Ventures. We were the first VC investor in that. But shortly about KNL, so it's a radio technology company, so wireless communication, and as you know, serving the defense sector. And the name KNL comes from KNL radio, which was developed during the Second World War, right?
Yeah, that's actually the first globally known wireless innovation from Finland, way before cell phones, Nokia, or anything like that. So.
Okay, so you got your name there, but so KNL radio technology company serving defense sector. But Toni, what's your background?
Well, if I start from the radio side, when I was a small kid, there was no internet or social media like you know it nowadays. So this nerdy hobby of amateur radio, it was a way to create a global community with same-minded people. So I think I was around maybe 14, 15 when I really got hooked with the shortwave radio and Morse code and all that old kind of stuff. And that then became quite a passion of mine. So I ended up contesting on that, traveling around the world. I think I won 17 European champions and a couple of world champions on that. So I had a pretty good understanding what you can do with the radios and so on. By education, I'm a military officer, and I served in Finnish Defence Forces for a bit short of 10 years, specializing in electronic warfare and communication.
Okay, so a long background in radio technology and defense forces, and now as we are talking about the company that is doing a radio technology and serving defense forces, so is that kind of a background kind of a requirement to be able to enter that defense sector?
Well, surely it helps, but of course we've seen a lot of defense companies with a different background as well. What maybe is important is that if looking kind of at the defense business and what's there, so in order to enter that business, you most likely need to be quite deep tech company, because trying to sell some kind of a software solution, if it's kind of like a generic software solution or any services, that area is pretty much occupied by large corporations, and the defense customers, they normally don't kind of very easily change, for example, the service provider. But if you have something truly unique on the technology side, then that may open up doors differently. But clearly, in a way or another, you need to know your customer. You need to have a personal relationship. You need to know to whom to contact to, because you can just kind of look from the phone book, call defense forces, and someone will pick up and buy your solution. So it helps, but if you do it other ways, then you just need to do a little bit more work.
Yeah, and networking, so get into the right networks. And with your background, you were already known in the defense sector, and you were known in the radio technology sector, so it was a good match. But if I heard right, you say that you can enter this domain also without being part of a defense industry earlier.
Yeah, then it just takes a bit more time and requires a bit more work, because you need to find the right contacts and you need to speak a lot of people to find the ones who really has a power to decide something.
Good. As mentioned, so Butterfly Ventures invested into KNL in 2014.
Yep.
And your kind of venture capital-backed story started from there, and then it went further. But what happened before this 2014?
Yeah, so there was roughly 3 years before we raised our first venture capital funding. And at that time, when we founded the company, we didn't have any understanding of business whatsoever. So I'm quite fortunate we didn't even try to reach out any investors at that time. But the first idea what we actually had was that we will just develop the technology, and then we will contact the defense corporations, and we try to cooperate with them so that they would productize what we have. So we knew the customer, we knew that there's a demand, there's a need for the solution what we are developing. But since it's a complete communication system, you just can't develop it in a year or even two. So when we had a certainty that, to our knowledge, that the technology works, we reached out some of the big players in the industry. We explained that we have developed this kind of a technical solution, and we see that this is the next generation of a long-range radio communication, and we always got the same reply. So these big, older companies, bigger companies, they came back to us and said that, oh boys, if this would work, someone already invented it. And that's not exactly what you want to hear as a founder. So we got a bit pissed off and decided that no matter how it goes commercially, we will show that this works. So that was the time when we decided that instead of just developing the software and the technology, building blocks and so forth, we will actually productize this and see how big we can make the company grow. And that's when we raised the first venture capital around 2014.
Yeah, and from our perspective, when you raised the first venture capital round, so it took 2 years to really tackle the technology risk. You guys were in the system was functioning in a lab. You had an idea how to get it out there, but still there was some hiccups that every startup has. You had your own unique ones, but it took, if I remember right, it took almost 2 years before you got it out, and that's pretty normal story for deep tech investor as well. So you accept that that technical risk and
some bankruptcy of a subcontractor and small court cases and the normal story.
Yeah, it was fun right now afterwards. So, but okay, so you raised your first round 2014, and then it started as a normal venture capital path. So then a round in 2016 or something. 2016, and then trying to enter this maritime sector and defense sector, and how did that go?
Yeah, well, along the way we realized that the same technology could be used both in defense and security sector, but also on the commercial maritime, because the operating environment is pretty much the same. And at that time, you couldn't fund a startup focusing on a defense. That was an absolute no-go for any of the venture capital companies. So, and also the maritime part, commercially it was at that time probably a bigger opportunity, and we consider that it may be a little bit easier to enter. And if you think entering into old-fashioned commercial maritime business is considered easier than the other segment, then you get a bit of an understanding of the overall environment.
Yeah, so like from the investor's point of view at that time, 2014, 15, 16, 17, 18 and so forth, it was still the defense sector was pretty challenging. And our kind of a guidance was all the time that try to also make breakthrough in this maritime sector, because in the defense sector, if you get those as your customers, it's a good kind of a long relationship, but it's unpredictable and you cannot build your business based on that. That was pretty much the thinking at that time. And I had background in electropit, nowadays Bittium, so seen some of that, but for investor it was a pretty scary, or it was impossible thought that you would have started focusing at that time only defense sector. But luckily there was this, like for investors' point of view, there was this maritime sector, and then afterwards we learned that these two are probably the slowest moving sectors in the world. So good luck for us.
Yeah, we had them both.
You had them both, but then the time went further, and then we tried to raise a B round. We were not successful in that one. It started, maybe it was because the defense sector and maritime sector are so challenging. So nice hefty A round, but no success in B round, and then we ended up to this exit toward to Telenor Maritime.
Yes, so at the time when we were kind of first reaching out for the B round, I think it was a bit like a opportunistic approach in a way that let's see what we can get, what kind of a round we can get together. But like I said, for most investors, the defense business at that time, it was a red flag. So if it would have been only a maritime company, then there would have been the maritime dedicated funds, family offices, and so forth. But they couldn't invest, or they wouldn't like to invest when there was a defense. And on the defense side, especially in Finland, there was no such funds available at that time, and Finland was not NATO country, so fundraising kind of from US for defense, it was rather challenging. But also kind of our understanding of the market and challenges kind of matured in a way that we realized that it doesn't matter if we raise 40 million or 400 million B round, that doesn't give any credibility in the eyes of our customers. So therefore we started to talk about that should we change the ownership structure in a way that either we get acquired or there would be a strategic investor with let's say significant ownership, either buying out the venture capital funds or at least remarkable minority ownership in the company. And then that kind of turned out to be then the acquisition where Telenor acquired us, because at that time Telenor had made a new strategy where the maritime digitalization was in a big part. So that was in their strategy, but they didn't have products and the product market fit at that time. So it was basically almost like a perfect match for the Telenor. But again, the defense business was kind of the issue there that then we needed to handle.
Yeah. So, and then for kind of a pre-seed stage investor's point of view, we did a kind of a exit, and it was super to see that the technology, product, team, and story to continue, even though it was not our most lucrative exit. It was super nice to see the story continuing. But now you are part of or KNL, and you are part of a bigger corporation, Telenor, and then you are serving defense sector, that is your paying customer. So what kind of a sector is it for startup and then for a growth company to do business?
Yeah, well, pretty broad question, but I think one of the fundamental things to understand is the procurement and how that sector works. It's basically more or less in all the Western countries at least, but to a large extent Southeast Asia as well. That normally you have some governmental, it's called like frames. In Finland, that's normally 4 years. It may be a little bit different length frame on some other countries. And basically, the procurement of the systems and capabilities for that 4 years frame, it's more or less fixed. Then kind of prior that 4-year frame, you have a previous frame where there is a competence gap analysis, technological studies, and things like that. But you basically need to go through at least 2 of these frames in order to go into the high revenue business. You can sell some POCs and stuff like that when you are on the kind of a technology scouting or concept phase, but you can't get like a volume or high revenue business only when that's kind of written into the executive concepts for the next frame. Then the procurement will start. And this is challenging in a way if you look at it from the startup perspective, where you normally have like a visibility for maybe 6-8 months or so. Then you have venture capital companies where you have a fund kind of a lifetime of 10 years plus minus something. And then you have a customer whose requirement is that you're kind of committed at least 8 years, meaning two of these kind of program frames before you kind of you hit to the break even, roughly speaking. So this kind of a dynamics is very, very challenging in that perspective.
So super long sales cycles. You need to first get into the networks to be known, then get into these frames 4+4 years, and then you might have a bigger business opportunity. So long time. So we have heard from NATO Innovation Fund representatives, one from procurement generals of US military forces, that about this dual use, that please try to make your product that is needed and accepted also in the private sector, and then if it's usable in the defense sector, we will use it, but don't start with us because the procurement or the sales cycle is so long.
Yeah, and there's crazy things like if it's a dual-use product, sometimes procuring like a non-military product for like a field test or some kind of a proof of concept may be actually easier than a military product. So this is kind of crazy, but I fully support the view that if you're only focusing on defense customer, then you need to build the company differently because you need to basically find a funding somewhere else than from venture capital funds. The validation, the revenues, it will just take too long. And also what I said before, that entering into the business as a new company basically more or less requires some kind of a deep technical new solution to win the established companies there. And we all know how fast and cheap that is. So kind of it really requires thinking that how to structure the company, how to build the funding, how to scale it up, because for example, scaling up defense company compared to scaling up, let's say, SaaS companies is a completely different, just because of a customer buying profile and procurement processes.
Yeah, and I know that your ambition is to change that procurement process in the future, but let's see how it goes. But at the moment it is, as you said, that it's a long period. You probably need this private and defense sector, and then survive with the private sector, and then maybe finding the really long business from defense sector. But maybe you succeed in your dream to change that procurement system. That would be great. Okay, so a lot of challenges during the round, but still the end result is, in my opinion, success. And I'm super happy to see KNL radio to be deployed by, well, I don't know, is it public information, but it's deployed by several authorities, let's put it this way.
Yeah, I think it's well formulated. So yeah, the system is nowadays in operational use, and well, Finland is a public reference to us. So that's actually quite interesting how kind of how the local domestic reference, how important that is in this business. So every now and then we hear stories where there's something kind of a really unique. Like now, for example, there are some drone companies I know that have grown the business a little bit differently. But normally, you first need to have your domestic reference, and on the other hand, if your domestic customer is happy, they will actually bring you a lot of foreign governments Because when you have a government-to-government conversation, that's completely different than when you have a business-to-government conversation. So if you have a happy domestic customer, that will for sure help you to the scale internationally as well. But the good thing is that it took about 10, 12 years for us to get to the point where kind of the systems are in use. We have the references, we have a happy customer, and also we have a huge international traction. But that was just kind of a pure luck with the timing. So first the war, unfortunate war in Ukraine, and then the Finland's NATO membership has completely changed the scheme for the, especially for the Finnish defense companies.
Yeah, so the times are really different than in 2014 when we invested first time, and Finns kind of appreciated the defense sector as a customer, but at the same time we knew that it's moving slowly. But as a venture capital fund, we were not and still are not able to invest into kind of ammos or weapon systems or anything like that. So this kind of a dual use was already then acceptable, but we knew that it's moving slowly. Well, now that there's a lot of unfortunate events globally that you mentioned, like war in Ukraine, but that has changed this industry and the kind of industry dynamics drastically. So what is happening right now with KNL and how are you doing?
Well, I think we're doing pretty well. So we are growing significantly, and I just counted that I think last week we were kind of supporting our customers same time in a handful of countries. So it's extremely busy days. Interestingly, to give you an idea what, for example, the NATO membership changed for us. We had an international customer, NATO member country, visiting us a week after Finland joining NATO. We've been in talks with them for 3 years, I would say. And when they came to our office and we started kind of the morning coffee and going through the situation, they said that this is now a completely different situation because last week we were talking about interesting technology and interesting product for us, but now we are talking about the system that is already NATO operational system. So kind of I wasn't even kind of thinking about or having that kind of understanding how big the change on the customer side was. But nowadays it's extremely busy. It's good, and like I said, the happy customer is kind of the best marketing what you can have.
Super, I'm so happy to hear that and happy for you guys. So best of luck, and let's hope that this KNL radio is one that helps us to maintain and bring peace to the world. Okay,
Exactly.
Thank you.